Welcome, Mike, to Big Content. Hello, Jack.
Hey, how's it going?
I like your yellow jacket.
Yeah, it's definitely a jacket. Speaking at Snapchat today, actually. Good opportunity. What? What is that for?
You wore a yellow jacket because you're speaking at Snapchat today?
Of course. That's great.
You fucking company, man.
Wait, the colors of the company are yellow.
I knew we're diving into politics today at some point.
I almost wore my Snapchat Nike shoes, but then I was like,
that would make more sense.
Wait, what?
Because you went to one of their events and they gave it to you, and then you're going to where they have a Snapchat office in New York?
Nah, they're work from home. 7,000.
Think I care or give a fuck?
Do you not know about Snap's office?
No.
They're at Times Square. They have this like top floor that Evan Spiegel's on. That's like his own personal palace. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool spot.
What are you teaching them?
It's a good op. It's a good op. So I got invited. Essentially, Snapchat is using me, but I'm okay with it. They're using me to speak on a panel with some Snap people to advertisers and potential brand partners to show that they should spend money with people on Snapchat, like creators on Snap.
So then when they put up like Jake Paul clickbait shit, and they're going to be like, defend this.
No, yeah, exactly.
Defend this shit.
No, I'll be honest about that. But they'll be like, well, you see that, Jake Paul's getting this Hershey's deal, but he's not getting on Snap. Like, why not? It's because advertisers aren't spending there. But I'm a really good case study because 80% of our revenue comes through Snapchat, not from ad monetization, but like working with Underdog, working with SeatGeek, working with Memento, working with all those companies. So they're using me to convince advertisers to spend with creators, influencers on the app.
So more for like natural sponsorship placements
for real partnerships, yes.
Than like I got you.
Yes.
Than like programmatic kind of
exactly. And so like people probably don't think about it, but the reason why creators put more time and energy into other apps is because they know the brands follow. And so when Instagram was always and still probably is the king of brand deals, but TikTok quickly became that secondary platform. So all those people on IG jumped over to TikTok. They never thought to jump to Snap. The only reason you jump to Snap, ad monetization in your stories, but they're trying to change that, which I think is really smart from them. And what I've seen from working with different brands, we have a higher success rate working on Snap than we do on Instagram, than we do on Twitter, than we do on TikTok. So I can genuinely speak forward about it. Where I think it'll reciprocate, they're using me, but I think there'll probably be some pretty good CMOs and different people that we're going to get FaceTime with. So hopefully I'll be rich in the future.
When do you think they're going to bring me in?
Well, you're not on Snap.
I haven't posted a Snapchat in probably 10 years.
Do you watch Snaps?
Nah.
Yeah.
Very, very rarely.
Well, just in general, the normal reaction to our business is like, you're on Snapchat? Do you make money?
Mm-hmm.
How's that work? Like people can't even, if you said, yeah, our business, we're on YouTube. Okay. Obviously we're on Instagram. Even people can conceptualize that nowadays. No one can even conceptualize having a business on Snap, which makes sense. For the first 5 years we were on the platform, they pretty much told us like, we don't want creators or businesses on the platform. They learned quickly that you're not going to last very long.
What's a sell like that? Because like we just touched on, there are different types of advertising for companies. Like companies can come to us and they could ask for natural advertising, right? Where they could say like, Jack, we like your content. We want you to promote our product. Like that's a normal 60, 90-second ad read that you would see in a content creator's product or content itself. Then there's also like the idea of putting making a produced commercial that company makes internally themselves and then putting it into this like programmatic ad buying system, which is basically like, all right, we're Nike, we made a commercial, we're throwing into the Snapchat inventory of ads, and those are the ones that play in between the swipes and the videos and stuff like that. So it has nothing to do with Jack's actual content. It just happens to be in between when you're watching Jack's and Jake Paul's or whatever. So if you're making what's like the biggest hesitation from companies to get on there in terms of like, do they think that if they're getting on TikTok, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that TikTok's videos can be 15, 30 seconds long, is it because they think Snapchat is just pictures? Are they not familiar that people are making longer videos? Like
they're not familiar, number one. Two, the tools don't exist. So like ad authorization, different things like that. Hashtag ad, which puts it into a branded piece of content, like the business manager. None of that stuff really exists. Or, for example, you can't even like at someone or hashtag someone because no one's on the platform for those reasons. So a lot of the benefits of all right, maybe someone didn't buy a bottle of Jameson just because I promoted it, but I tagged Jameson US, so they're going to follow it. Like, Jameson's not even on Snapchat. And so because of that, you can't audience restrict on Snapchat, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
posting a 21 plus isn't even a possibility. So I can't work with, those types of brands and all that different stuff. So there's a million different reasons. On top of that, yes, people aren't typically producing like content for the app. It's all stories. And it's why people don't just really get story promotion, in a brand deal. They'll get a feed post. Everyone wants the feed post. So I think that's part of it too. But like, I'll make content that I can post that's a minute, and it'll just post as six straight 10-second snaps.
Yeah.
It's no different. The click through, people obviously swipe away, but they swipe away, on a
20 seconds into a regular
right.
video. Yeah.
So I think, in the brief and before we do the panel, they were like, if you had full creative control, what would you want a brand partnership on Snap to look like? And my response was literally the first.
Did you already do this, or is it later?
No. They sent me like an email.
Oh, okay.
And I had to fill out a bunch of stuff so that we could be prepared. And I said, the first thing I would ask for is time. That is not all I want, but that is the most important thing, because there's no doubt in my mind, DirecTV will spend 10 grand on 3 Snap stories. It'll get 60,000 views. No one will do anything with that. It won't hit the metrics they want.
What do you mean time?
Sorry?
You said what I wanted.
Time. Yes. Time and trust, meaning I need time to develop with the brand. It can't, the difference between TikTok and Instagram is it feels like you can just stick a brand in the middle of it, right? As opposed to, I need to be working with companies for a long period of time on a campaign, for example. Unless it's something that's super timely that I feel like we can really bring awareness to.
Why do you think that is?
Because
Is it because everything in Snapchat is just so disappearing? Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much that. You lose the benefit of someone seeing it in 3 days. Like, I always joke with Casey that it blows our mind that new people sign up for Underdog. We've been working with them for 3 years. We post about them every other day.
Yeah.
Who the hell hasn't, outside of someone who literally just moved to a new state that they can play it in, right? But like, we're seeing sizable, and of course now our audience is growing there. But until we got verified, our audience on Snap was not growing. And this is what I'm referring to. After 2.5 years, who hadn't seen Underdog and code Snapback, right? But people, they need to see it 100 times. They need to see the different features, right? Mm-hmm. And so if I were to just stick a story ad in there, it's just probably not going to fire for them. So that was like the importance of it all. And I think that is really something that can be looked at as a whole with creators. When you think about getting in bed with brands, do they have a long-term view? Because that's probably the most backwards thing.
Okay, so then if your pitch to them is like, hey, direct response campaigns off the rip are not going to work well, what does the content that you make for them actually look like then? Are you not doing sales? Are you only doing
I've done a few things. Look, brand awareness is the best thing for a creator, right? I'm not selling Toyota trucks, right? But if I was,
that'd be funny as hell.
I would only need 3 people to buy, and it would probably return the ad fee. But anyways, we did a Call of Duty campaign.
You ain't selling 3 fucking trucks on it.
You don't think I'd sell 3 trucks?
On a video? Hell no.
Right. But if you gave me a year-long partnership with them, could I move 3 trucks?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe.
But on one ad, 0%.
Yeah, no. Okay. Yeah.
So that's kind of that's exactly the thought process. So I've done a few on Snap. One, we did a Call of Duty campaign, 3 or 4 stories, used the filter, and it was around the game releasing. To me, as long as they're not measuring how many people bought directly off that, I actually think it's an effective use of the campaign. You're building hype around a game.
Letting people know that it's coming out.
So that, it could be Madden, FIFA, whatever it might be. Video games make a lot of sense to me. We did one for Dick's Sporting Goods around the holiday season about purchasing gifts for either yourself or for your family, some of their new Nike tech gear, whatever it might be. I don't think in just those 3 stories, we're going to sell enough Nike tech gear, but it did bring awareness to it, to the promotion. But if we had been doing a Dick's campaign the entire year, and then that's when we were cashing in on it, I think that's when it makes sense. So I'm just asking for that amount of time. Creative control, obviously, like I post stuff for DirecTV that I tell Alex, who's communicating to the brand or the agency, like, this is not good content. Like, you're asking me to post bad content, stuff that will not convert. You're not trusting me. I can't trust you, but they want it anyways.
I can't trust you.
I just can't. Like, it's too ad heavy. It doesn't make sense. It's not funny. It doesn't fit, right?
Yep.
But we're going to do it because the tie-in makes enough sense, and, you know, I got to pay rent tomorrow. So I think that's the whole thought process behind that.
Okay. This is interesting. Yeah, I don't really know the world of Snap. It's got to be.
Do you guys pitch products in your stuff besides Underdog? Like, you know, we're a more general media company. You're hyper specific.
So actually, I mean, this is I guess a good conversation. We got on a call with like an agency similar to like Snapback agency that wants to pitch us. Say like, hey, we'll connect you with the brands.
Yeah.
We take a percentage of the deal.
Yeah.
And I get those emails all the time. Never answer them, but it's also like, all right, I haven't been on one of these calls in like a year. Maybe
have people updated their
maybe they've
pitch?
changed or whatever. I also wanted, like JMO said, he wanted to be in on more business calls. So I was like, all right, I'll let you in on this one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you exactly how it's gonna go beforehand.
Yeah.
Like pitch by number, pitch by pitch, exactly what's gonna happen. Same thing with JL because he hadn't been on one of those.
Yeah.
Got on it exactly what I want. Yeah, exactly what I thought was gonna happen. And with those agencies, the way I look at it is okay, if we have a piece of content that is, I would say most of our content ranges from 12 to 20 minutes, right? TikTok excluded. We don't try to push real products in TikTok videos. We try to push awareness to maybe other platforms or whatever. I think that's what we found our most success with. If I'm looking at our YouTube videos, 12 to 20 minutes, which I think are our best direct response sales stuff, I say, okay, in that time frame, we could pitch one thing successfully. Yeah. Right? So I look at, we could work with this agency. They get us a deal with Manscaped or Harry's or Better Health, whatever. And maybe they'll pay us $2,000, $2,500 to do this pitch. That's what the pitch for that video is going to be. And I say to myself, what's more ROI heavy for us? Do we use that 30, 90-second plug for our product, an Underdog sell, or who's our main partner, obviously, or this random Harry's company? Every single time, my mind goes back to way better idea for us to just pitch our own shit. Either Underdog or our own product. We have our membership in season right now. Way more longevity, get people into our ecosphere, our system. And that's how I think about it. Now, if we had, because I was discussing it with JL afterwards in the call, and he's like, man, I wonder, you know, like the footballers work with a manager for this kind of stuff. And I said, yeah, they also have probably 5 videos, podcasts a week that are like 60 to 75 minutes long. Therefore, in order to continue making the content good, you could fit 3 to 4 ad reads within a 75-minute kind of podcast. That I'd be okay with, because we would need to fill that with inventory, right? I'm not just going to pitch our membership 4 times throughout a video, right? Maybe I would. Maybe that would work. Maybe get ridiculous. But if we filled it with 3 or 4 other ones, I think a lot of it is kind of reverse engineering the content that you have, how much space you have as a creator to do it. I would rather not sell anything at all than get paid to do something that I feel like is detrimental to the brand, or like $2,000 to a brand that I don't care about. I'd rather not put anything in the video whatsoever. Yeah.
This is, I'm pretty sure it's Gary Vee's book, Jab, 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 Hook. It's the concept of deliver, and then make the ask. So this is what we've talked about in short form content before, and why I'm always skeptical of short form content. If you're posting a 30,
unless it's on Snapchat.
If you're posting, no, but that's why I asked for time. Because yes, if I ask for an ad within 4 snaps, I've delivered 30 seconds of content, and I'm delivering 30 seconds of advertising. If you give me a year, then I'm delivering 3,000 seconds.
364 days worth of content, 30 seconds of ad.
That seriously though, it builds trust with the audience, and it's why I've always been skeptical of TikTok success, is because in a minute video, you're taking 15 seconds to sell something, unless it's something like fantasy football content where the partner is so ingrained that it just logically makes sense. But to me, Harry's or Swoon or these other companies they're full on ads, unless you can time into the content naturally, which
can happen, but
but that's where you need trust from the brand,
right?
And they're 9 times out of 10.
And a lot of times you need lifestyle content, and a lot of times, you know, even ourselves and you guys and other niche creators aren't really lifestyle creators, right? So it's a little bit tough to transform it over, because your normal audience is going to be like, the fuck are you doing talking about like shaving your beard right now? I'm here to ask about the waiver wire shit. So it gets a little complicated. Like they're going off of just
unless
like basic
you're
demographics.
super creative, which then the audience will actually appreciate that. Yes, you could. But finding a brand that wants to spend with you is tough enough. Finding a brand that's going to get super creative, and then that brand to have a big enough budget that it's worth your time to get creative with it.
That's the other thing. Like most of these companies, they're so at scale, and they have 40 agencies working for them, trying to connect with every single fucking individual creator, that they'll be like, oh, we just want to do a one-off test with you. Exactly. If it goes well, we'll like re-up it next month for one ad spot. And it's just like these number games that they're throwing like darts at. And
it's difficult.
Yeah, I'd rather just do our own thing.
That's probably the realest look into how difficult it's like chicken or the egg, because the small creator.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's difficult from both sides. Like I kind of empathize with the big companies,
because the brand also, how are they supposed to know where they're supposed to spend if they just book year-long deals? Yeah. It is the benefit of being a bigger creator, is that you can kind of have a little more faith and trust, and sometimes you'll have metrics and numbers. So
which is another reason why I tell people to, like, if you fuck with a company, if you really like a company, do some creative ads before you even speak to them. Because here's the thing, like, those people that are in control of the longer deals, they're just people. Yeah. And you might just stumble upon the right person that's like, yo, I really like this ad that you did for us. We'll give you a 6-month deal if this is the creativity that you put into it. Like, you just never know who's going to see that kind of stuff.
And I also think that over-delivering and is so big. It's you never want to feel like you get screwed on a deal. And Underdog won our first year of our deal. There's no doubt about it. We were probably smart because we got a little stake of the company. That's how we hedged it. But on a cash basis, we got slaughtered based off the thing we brought. But now the deal is evened out, right? And there could be a point in time where we win the deal, right? Where we don't deliver as much. And so I'm always a believer in over-deliver first, and then you'll get even on the back end. It's like playing on a rookie contract. You play on the rookie contract, you prove yourself, you're going to go and get that deal. And then you know what? Maybe you get signed to the big deal, and you ain't worth that deal. But you got to over-deliver up front. I think this is really key for creators to understand. So
you got to go above and beyond. Like, you're not worth anything until you're worth something. You're not, you haven't built up any longevity with these brands or anything like that until you've shown them that they should trust you.
I want to emphasize your point also on thinking about content as ad space. Like, just because it's not Harry's or it's not a DirecTV ad does not mean that asking someone to subscribe isn't you making an advertisement of subscribe to my content. This is what companies do all the time. Spotify, it's the network effect. If they don't fill their biggest podcast with Joe Rogan, with an ad slot, they might fill it as a preview talking about a different podcast within their network, which grows that. So everything is effectively an ad slot.
You know what's kind of interesting too? The fact that I hear so many advertisements now from podcasters, like they're doing paid ads to promote their podcast. Like, you'll be listening to a podcast, and then instead of hearing a Harry's read,
that's what I mean.
Exactly, it's just like an interesting kind of shift I've noticed in the industry, that like podcasts are almost a product now for a company, right? And it's like they're using ad spend that you would normally use on like Facebook or Instagram or Twitter to podcast ad 100%. Spend, right? And it'll be like you're listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, and then they go to a commercial break, and it's just this read from a hip hop podcast. It's like, come listen to Joe Budden's.
It's not new though. Like, think about NBC, right? You're gonna watch, if anyone is conscious of it, they'll do one Super Bowl commercial, and it will be promoting what's on after. They'll be promoting their new show.
But what I'm even referring to is not like the Spotify promoting it. It's like it'd be like if you and me were like, hey, let's get onto the
let's
the Spotify
buy a Super Bowl commercial.
Let's buy like podcast ad reads about big content. Yeah. Okay, because, this is Jack and Nick.
Yes, it's a great point. Historically, it's been organic advertising. Like, you go on my show,
but it's harder. It's harder and harder to get it, and most of it comes from celebrity-backed podcasts. I'm realizing, obviously, you have to have deeper pockets to want to throw ad spend behind whatever, because people need to know. Like, if you're going to do ad reads for a podcast, people need to know immediately like who you are. Otherwise, they're like, "What the fuck is this?" So you're seeing it, and a lot of celebrities want to like break through, and they want to be the next podcast or whatever. I'm sure a lot of celebrities just think they can get on a podcast and kind of like break through in that way, but just an interesting trend I've noticed.
I mean, even paid appearances in the reverse. Like, would we pay to have Marlon go on a bigger podcast? Like, in theory,
that's
it might make sense. Yeah. It might make sense too, because we're going to get a lot of viewership. And then
it's weird to think about, because you just kind of assume like Marlon should be able to go on wherever he wants to. Yeah. Like, people should be welcoming Marlon on, because for their podcast, the awareness would go up putting him in clips with them.
Yes.
So it's an interesting conversation to have.
Unless the podcast is big enough where it doesn't move the needle.
Yeah. So like advertising, almost in the sense of when people release like books, you'll see them do the circuit of like, go on Gary Vee, go on this entrepreneur podcast, whatever. It's like, oh, I'm doing I'm selling these books now. Yeah. It's almost like that for a podcast. Yeah. Interesting.
All right. Very relevant.
We should just go on Joe Rogan.
We should just buy ad space on Joe Rogan. Big content. I mean, he hates big pharma. He probably hates big media too. Although Spotify gave him a check, so he probably
I think he's probably
quiet about that.
Hush hush.
All right, so we're going politic route right now. Are you excited? You said you might cry when we have this conversation.
What was the next conversation we were going to talk about?
This is going to be the Israel-Palestine.
No, the next one.
The one after is Marlon touchdown.
That was when I was going to cry.
Okay, you're going to cry about that. So this conversation is extremely relevant to me. I'm a Jewish person who has been to Israel prior. I'm also a content creator.
I'm a Jewish person. I've never been to Israel.
You're Jewish? Really?
Well, I think I might have told the story on here before. My mom, fully Jewish. My dad, fully Catholic. Yeah.
No, the mom is what determines.
I believe choice is what determines. No. Yeah, because I got baptized, communion, confirmation, just so I could play on the church.
In the Jewish religion, the mother is like, you were technically born Jewish. That's what a Jewish person would believe.
Got it. Okay. I believe.
But if you got baptized, I'm going to go with you're probably not Jewish today.
Yeah. I think you get to choose your religion.
You did.
Yeah, correct. That wasn't like an actual conversation starter. That was me telling, like, that was redundant. I
don't know if that's true, actually.
You can't choose your religion?
I think that
you can't choose what you believe in.
You can.
Yes.
But I think that it might be similar, like you were born a male. From the Jewish belief is you were born Jewish, but you have now selected.
Okay, regardless, this is not the conversation that we were going to be having. I was saying I'm not like actually religious whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily care for it. Mom Jewish, dad Catholic. I got baptized, made confirmation, communion all on the same day, so I could play on the church basketball team with my friends.
Got it.
I think I've talked about this before. I dropped 18 that night though, for real. 18 and 7.
That's it. And by the way,
18 first half I got sad because we were up by 40.
Should have gone to a Jewish summer camp. You would have dropped like 18 and a half because I dominated and you've seen me play.
Well, you take the easy route.
Exactly. Yeah. The Jewish easy route.
Not me.
Anyways, why is this relevant? Not because we're hyper religious, because Hamas had an attack on Israel recently, and people are speaking out. And we've talked about speaking out against COVID. We talked about when BLM happened. I think this is the first time it has happened to a group that is specific to my life. And so I got questioned by Hallie, my fiance, are you going to post anything? I think there's a general silence, but a feeling of people wondering, am I going to post anything? Then there's the audience. Are you going to say anything? So first question is there a responsibility to post anything with a person with a platform?
No, okay. I don't think there's a responsibility. This was my same stance on BLM. If you feel a strong pull towards it, I think the general consensus, I think it's kind of corny from audience to tell people what they need to care about. I don't like that.
Okay.
I think it's important on a personal level that you check up on the people that you think this actually affects.
Yeah.
I don't think that the way the world works in terms of telling people what they're supposed to care about, I think that's I hate that. I don't like that at all, because if we flip the switch.
Okay, I hear you.
You know what I mean?
Heard on that. What about if it's obvious that I care about it?
I don't think there's a responsibility. I think you should feel the pull to do so. If you feel like you care about the situation, you feel strongly one way, I would encourage you to do it, but I would never be like, you have to fucking do, like, it's your responsibility.
100%. I'm with you on that. Okay. So let's say I've decided I'm upset that specific thing happened, right? I feel strongly about it. It's also insanely complex, the issue. And I get that people, and I've tried doing this as well, to be like, Israel-Palestine conflict is extremely complex, but Hamas, committing an act of terror is not. So you should condemn that. It's not, it actually isn't separate. I've tried to separate it. It is not separate. And like, it feels insane to say, but like, I'm not necessarily pro-Palestine, pro-Israel, but like their acts, everyone has an argument. The way they went about it is disgusting. Like it's just too complex, right? So my first thing I did was I didn't say anything for days because I had to do research. I think, do you see people going out and posting stuff without doing research? Do you care about that?
The most I've seen being posted is relatively those like reposted Instagram stories that are kind of the same thing floating around over and over
this
again.
is my issue, and I said it straight to Hallie. And there's people in my life who were affected by this, who were in Israel at the time, who lived there, right? And they're saying, I'm standing with Israel. And after doing research, I don't feel comfortable saying I'm standing with Israel because that's actually not what I'm doing. But people are just
don't you feel like what you're saying right now is what you should be saying? It's okay not to condemn. It's okay not to have a result in what you're saying and speak about what you're feeling.
Well, that's what I did on my Snap story.
Right.
I posted about 40 things, responding to people and just having a discourse around the topic. Also, while doing research on the side, I don't think that's the expectation that that's not what I would expect most people to do. I don't think they're going to.
I think in these situations, people put everything on a pedestal, and they have expectations for what something should be or what people should say.
They just want to hear their side.
They want to hear their side. They want you to take a stance.
Yes.
So everyone wants you to take a stance because it either allows them to support you or bat you down.
Exactly. I was going to say everyone wants you to take their side. They don't actually want you to share what you think. They just want to see you sharing.
And unless you feel strongly towards a certain way, like if there is something going on and I feel strongly towards one side or another, I have no problem sharing that opinion and taking a side on something.
Yeah.
But if I feel like I'm in between, or if I'm not well researched enough, or all I can do is feel shit and not have an actual stance on something, that is what I'll say too.
Yeah.
I think people put on a pedestal and then they get in their own mind about like what I should be saying, what I should be doing, rather than just expressing what they're feeling.
Yeah. It's a wildly complex issue. Now let's take it to the creator business world as well. So Alex, who's my manager, asked me, he's Jewish also, and we were just having a conversation. He was like, by the way, do you still feel comfortable posting content? And number two, we have some brand stuff to go out, in the coming weeks. Do you still feel comfortable doing these things? And one, from people know I'm Jewish, like how will they react to that? Number two, it makes a Jameson ad feel, a little bit smaller today, right? And a little less relevant. On the same side, like my rent will be due. My employees need to be paid. And it's a very loaded situation. So I sent a message to our team, which was our stance on this is love and peace in any situation. I'm not making you guys put out a statement. I'm not making you guys I don't think that the leagues necessarily should have posted something because it is so deep. And once again, I understand everyone's trying to separate the two of like an act of terror versus the conflict. It's just too complex for me. In the same vein, and this is where I'll pull the Jewish, roots from. Then you take the biggest step back and you say, if I was alive 70 years ago, how did the Holocaust happen? How did this happen? How could people could people allow this to happen? And that's where I'm like, you know what? Maybe it was just people weren't speaking out, and whether or not it was complex, whether or not, you want to play both sides and understand but in this situation, there was a lot of Jews who were shamelessly murdered. And maybe if the voices are muted, that's how shit happens. It just feels like in today's age, it could never happen again because of media, but maybe it can. And so that's where the whole thing is just difficult. So I wanted to have a conversation about, as a small creator, because, Mia Khalifa, I mean, maybe she's not the
I know where you're going.
The number one model citizen. She lost her Playboy partnership or whatever it was. You could 100% lose business from doing this. I think one of my friends was like, I'm disappointed Big Cat didn't post. As a Jew with a platform like that, surprised because he's always kind of at the forefront of this stuff, not in Judaism, but he's someone that will step outside and be like, sure, this is how I feel about this. But Barstool is in a tough financial situation. Who knows what, someone on the other side may feel about that. So that is probably the most complex part, is the business side, because it is life versus business. But business is part of life. It's impossible to escape that.
if you knew, let's say you felt really strong, like say you felt like you
Yeah.
understood the situation really strongly and you felt really strongly about
Yes.
one side,
Yeah.
saying that you wanted to condemn this or whatever,
Yeah.
knowing that it would be a hit to your business,
Mm-hmm.
would you do it?
Yes.
Same. And I think that's how most
Yeah.
people probably should and will operate.
But I think it's tough to acknowledge, but that's privilege. That's it. It's the
But
privilege.
we're talking about our situation right now.
I understand, but that's not everyone's situation.
Yes. I mean, I don't have answers for everybody. I'm
Yeah.
just having this conversation
No, I
between
know,
you and
I know,
as
but
creators.
100%. But a smaller creator, what I'm saying is, if there was a Palestinian creator who worked for Underdog, where I would imagine, now I don't know this for a fact, but Jeremy Levine is probably favors one side of the coin, right? A pro-Palestinian Underdog ambassador came out and said, no, I'm pro-free Palestine. What Hamas did is wrong, but you guys are not acknowledging this. Maybe and Underdog's their sole source of revenue.
Tough situation.
Very tough.
Very tough. I know what I would do.
Yeah.
It would be me, my life, my feelings
Yeah.
over the job, the work, the business.
Yeah.
And if it ends up being what it is, I would consider that more self-respect thing, you know? Of course, that type of like intent of a situation leaves people in a lot of tough spots.
Yeah.
But that would be the same way. What we said now, what I just said was like in the scenario I gave you, I would do the same exact thing. I would have also done that while I was working at a corporate job 8 years ago. You know, like that hasn't changed me as a person. I think it comes down to who you are as a person.
I think you're probably in the minority, honestly. Like everyone wants to think they're brave and strong. I genuinely believe that you would put your values over, you know, whatever job it may be, whatever opportunity it may be. But I don't think everyone is the same like that. They'd like to think in a moment of, and that's probably why they look to people with platforms.
That's
because
fair.
they're projecting.
Well, no, that's fair. I guess if I could give a piece of advice, if you feel so strongly about it, I would urge you just as a person to speak up, just because you'll live with a lot of regret and you'll live with the idea that like in that situation, right? Like that person, obviously that's completely hypothetical, but like say that happened, the person doesn't speak out, they work at Underdog or whatever. What's going to happen over the next year or two? They are going to start hating working there. Even if nothing happens, even if they have such a positive work-life experience, whatever, they're going to resent.
They'll feel resentment.
They'll have a lot of resentment towards whether it's Jeremy or the company. Even if they didn't even say anything, even if they didn't even know that they would get in trouble for speaking out, they will start to project these scenarios of like, fuck, like, you know, if I spoke out, they would have condemned me. You'll start to make these things up and you'll resent it. So in the long term, I think it's going to hurt you not to be who you are as a person.
Yes, I agree with that.
That's the only like advice I guess I can give.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's knock it down a peg, which if you remove crazy conflict and people dying and all that stuff, which is, it's tough to do that. But what feels like that is sports sometimes. And so on Sunday, Marlon Humphrey comes back. It was going to be the best sports weekend of my life. I flew to Dallas. Orioles are hosting playoff for the first time in 7 years. We lose the last 15 seconds. I fly home. We lose game 2. As we're walking into the game, I get a text that, you know, my boy might have let up the game winning touchdown to.
Oh, you didn't even see that live?
No, I didn't see it live. Casey was like, "Oh, the Steelers just scored." I'm like, "Who scored?"
Not great.
He goes, "Pickens." I go, "No." And he goes, "Yeah, it's 44." I'm like, how does all this happen in one weekend? The beauty of Marlon Humphrey is he has insane perspective, which shouldn't be insane, but it's 1 week. It's his first game back. It sucks. It wasn't all his fault the whole game. Like the Ravens should have put him away. He takes full responsibility for it. And he got off the plane, came to record, and was laughing. And, you know, because they're humans. They're humans. And the best part of the podcast is Marlon saying the toughest part about being here right now is being with you. Like, he said that to me. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, he's like, mean? I wanted to come home, and, like, my girl was going to cuddle me, and I got to talk to you. You know, like, they're humans. Yeah. On the flip side, the comment sections don't care about his humanity and who he is and all that. It's been the nastiest week of, you know, comments. Ravens fans are so fed up. They're just, quit the podcast, bro. You're not focused.
This is why you lit it up, because you're only focused on the content.
Exactly.
I saw that stuff,
yeah. So I think this doesn't apply to just Marlon. This is where it's under a magnifying glass for my situation, but you've had situations like this in the past. And I think smaller creators, it does kind of blend it could be there's a huge conflict in the world and they post about it and now their comment section's all about that, to, you know, something they did that's wrong, or their sports betting picks were wrong and they're a content creator in that regard. So I'm curious your thoughts.
Well, I guess I kind of want to ask about your situation personally, but I have a couple of funny examples I can give because this week's Deal or No Deal punishment was that I had to read mean comments posted on the internet.
Yeah.
So they got a bunch of them together, and naturally they went back to January, February, March of last year when all that stuff was happening, and I just did it. I just recorded that video like an hour ago. So I have some good perspective on this, like how I felt at the time as well as how I feel now about reading them.
A year later. Yeah.
So with Marlon, was there any... Have you spoke to him about the comments? Have you like sent them to him and been like, have you seen these?
No.
I'm curious to know if any of that has crept into his head.
So he turns off his Instagram comments during the season. The funniest part about Marlon, why I love him, he doesn't want to hear positive reinforcement. That's why he does it, which is hilarious.
Okay.
He's not on Twitter and he's not reading through the YouTube comments. He knows the comments are there. He's not knowing the specific thing. After it happened, I was at the Orioles game and I didn't text him. I was kind of like, when he got hurt, I had this question of, is he not going to want to do this right now? Focus on rehab. He was all in. I thought he would be more willing to do it because he was on the field, but this was like a weird thing to be like, yo, are we recording? He texted me on the flight. He's like, I'll be home at this time. Let's do it.
Gotcha.
Obviously. So that was good. So no, he hasn't seen the comments, but he knows what the comments are.
Okay.
Obviously.
Yeah, because I think for a lot of creators, like it is very easy. I mean, I would consider him a new creator, right?
Yeah.
Like he's a very new creator. It's easy to let comments creep into your mind because if you have a tiny bit of insecurity and someone hits on it, you're like, oh, everybody else sees that insecurity too. And it's easier to start believing it. When I think about it now, so we had, a ton of comments and stuff that they could have picked through when I was doing the reading the mean comments or whatever. And 90% of them were like, oh my God, you just tanked your business. Oh my God, it's going downhill. And at the time it was like overwhelming. It was hundreds and hundreds and thousands of comments about how big of a piece of shit I was, about how I don't know anything. Yeah. Like that. I had no argument.
That was,
I just stayed out of the comments because I was like, there's nothing here for me. But at the time I was like, I'm going to get past this because I'm in the right. I did nothing immoral. I did nothing unethical. And in the long term, I knew where we were going to be. So I think when you're well-intentioned, if you could take a step back and understand that in 6 or 12 months, all of this shit always passes. I've been through enough of these things now. They always pass. And you're going to be right if you're well-intentioned. And people pick up on those things. With it, like in that moment, there was no, I'm not fighting back against people. I'm not replying to comments and being like, no, you're wrong. Because you can't prove what they're saying wrong in a day. Yeah. I can prove them wrong in a year, right? By putting my head down, working, getting better, doing everything that they said I cannot do. That shit fires me up too, to be honest with you. It's kind of motivational. Looking back at it now, I was like laughing as I was reading the tweets, or the comments. I was like, this shit was kind of hurtful at the time. Yeah. It was, it was just a lot at once. Reading back now, I'm like, this is knowing I knew at the time where I would be now. And I was like, I'm going to be fine. In 6 months or 12 months, our business is going to be in such a good spot. And everyone's going to look back and be like, okay, I was wrong. Yeah. And Nick was the one person in the right here. Like, I knew that was going to happen. Yeah. But now that I get there.
Are you victory lapping it?
I kind of wanted to victory lap a little bit when I was doing the TikTok, but I didn't have enough time to really do it.
No, it's good perspective because, I asked Casey, I was like, what should we do? Should we respond and defend? No. Should we reply? Should we to acknowledge we see?
Because you want to know what the best response is.
A lot of people want to be heard.
Okay. There's credence to wanting to be heard. Yeah. But those comments, no. If you believe, that's what I'm saying. Well-intended.
No. What I was about to say, well-intended, was your point is we're going to record for a year, and the comments are stop recording until you start playing better. And what we're going to show is give him time back to heal from an injury, let him get back into it. And he'll be playing better.
That's
what
we're
I'm still going to be recording the podcast, so you'll see how
it's the same version of me just being like, our business is still going to do well. Marlon's going to get back out there and be an all-pro by the end of the year, kind of thing.
Now, I will say there are more complexities. I think at its core and foundation, that's the right thing to do. Now, he did say he would like to be posting online a little less from his personal stuff until the Ravens resume winning, which I think is interesting because my initial take as someone in media is like, no, fuck it. Like, don't let them win. Just keep continuing on what you're doing. But at a scale like that, his tweets, I do think can impact like team morale. Like if he doesn't seem to understand time and place.
If people are starting to see him as like a content creator
Yes.
/ football player,
Exactly.
I can see how
and
that could be
so,
distracting.
you know, a very obvious one would be he does like his victory IG lives after the game.
Mm-hmm.
If he just did IG lives after the game, like that would show a major lack of awareness, which would 100% impact the team in a negative light. He would not be viewed as a leader, right? So I think there is that difficult balance of like, don't let the haters win. Show that you can still show up and do this podcast every week, right? But I get why you wouldn't want to necessarily be tweeting about, you know, funny things that are happening in London because you want to show you're locked in. Is that the right way to go about it, though?
I think depending on how you started, like if you're the same person you were before the hate comments as after, I don't see a problem.
But I do think his stuff kind of fluctuates. And, you know, LeBron really started it on a major scale of like his 0 dark 30, right? Mm-hmm. Which is to say, there is a point in time where I lock in. And then you kind of set that standard to where now when he doesn't go 0 dark 30 in the playoffs, it's like, hey, buddy, like, are you locked in or not? You know? And if you haven't,
that's what I'm saying. He's doing it different as before as and after.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was interesting. I think we opted for, you know, no comment back. I don't mind if we were to like a comment because I think acknowledging that we are hearing you, that we are conscious, that.
But that kind of comment, I get that when it's actual criticism that has something of substance behind it.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff, those are the ones I just hit them with like a no you. Like if they're like, the no you is the perfect response to people that are trying to fuck with you.
Like NO space you.
Yeah, no you.
Like what's the comment?
It could be anything. It'll be like Nick's fucking loser. I'll just be like, no you.
I think that's just as dumb, but
it's phenomenal.
Fair enough.
Because you can't take those comments seriously. Because as soon as you do, then it gives a lot of credence to those people, and that's when they build upon it. But if you're just looking at them and you're like, it doesn't affect me. Like, you just sound like an idiot. I'm just gonna sound an idiot back to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of the road I've taken.
I will say, man, it's ugly. Like,
welcome to the fucking mud.
No, like I do feel bad for athletes. They get a lot of hate. And there's always you get paid a lot of money, you should deal with it, which I don't disagree with either. Yeah. But it's tough. And you could see why someone would react because you get banged and banged and banged on. And at some point you're just like, God,
yeah. I mean, if there's credence to it though, I do think that there's if Marlon's like content output increased and his play decreased, that'd be bad. If like in our situation, our content continued to be, you know, people were like, oh, your content is going to be terrible now. Like you lost the only people that are making it good. If our content was terrible afterwards, then yes, they would have credence to it.
But Marlon's content.
But fuck them.
But Marlon's content input could increase and his play could decrease, and the two could not be correlated in the slightest. Yeah. Because no one has an understanding of what these guys' lives are like. Yeah. Like it's nuts to me. Like he has so much free time. The amount of free time that professional athletes have is mind-boggling.
Maybe he needs to work harder.
That's everyone, right? That's everyone's gut instinct. He's at the facility at 6 a.m. till he'll get home at like 3 or 4 p.m. I mean, he has 6 hours. Yeah. You go watch TV after work. He just turns on a podcast. Like it's the same thing, but people actually, and I probably was in this boat too when I was a young infant. Why are you watching film? They don't fucking watch film.
They don't watch film?
No, they don't. They watch.
That's not true. That can't be true.
Swear on my life. Quarterbacks watch film. Rest of them, they watch some. But
don't they watch it like within that 6 to 4?
Yes, with their team meetings. Yeah. But outside of film study, they talk about like
maybe that touchdown doesn't happen.
They talk about like it's homework. Yo, you're gonna like. I was with a few of them. They're like, yo, you going to watch film after this? Yeah, going to watch the film. Like it's like you're gonna go do your homework after we're done. It's the same thing. They're just fucking humans. Which. Maybe he should be watching more film because he thought a back shoulder was coming. It's why he played that release, and he got beat deep. Anyways, I think the most complex part that I can't share but I can share like the idea of it is when people don't have the full context of the situation.
They never will.
But yeah, I guess
they never will. So if the comments start coming from people that do know it, if the comments...
Right.
Kyle Hamilton, Kyle Hamilton gets on that Instagram reel you just put on and seriously said, get off the podcast because you're playing like shit, something there.
No,
Maybe not actually, but like you know what I'm saying.
Not even you're playing like shit. It's more like because you're not studying film because this is
Right. You get what I'm saying though.
Yeah.
It needs to come from people that you trust, care about.
Yeah.
Because they trust and care about you before the action happens.
That's just where immense empathy comes, and it could be you don't know what really happened on that play, all the way to like our lives where you don't know where I'm at personally, and you don't know where my head's been at, and that's the real reason, and that's when you're more likely to get a reaction too. Is like, God, my mom is sick, right?
Yep.
You know,
So all these things that people don't have the context to. Like, what if Marlon was underplaying it because 75% of the time George Pickens cuts back on that play and he had a safety over the top kind of thing, but no one would know that. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, no one knows that, but that's why if Kyle Hamilton comes out, right? If Kyle Hamilton comes out and comments that, then you know that wasn't the fucking case.
But Kyle might not know where Marlon's at. He might be fighting with his girlfriend that day, and it messed him up.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, the less the people know about you, the less context they have about you, the less credence you should actually give to the comments that are coming out.
Yeah, he didn't let up that touchdown because of the podcast. I'm pretty confident.
Yeah, don't worry. I've watched the play multiple times.
I'm pretty confident.
Don't know him, don't know the play call, but I know what happened.
In saying that. Yeah, that was it.
Take us away. Fuck us up.
All right, this pod is sponsored by Subscribe to the Podcast. So make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube, subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, send to a friend. We also like pre-roll, mid-roll, ad-roll. Like if you were to rate the value of each, like pre-roll, if you do a true pre-roll, not like an intro and then plop something in the first 2 minutes, that's probably like your second most important. I would say mid-roll is your most valuable. You'll have less people that get there, but they're the more engaged users, so they're more important. And then post-roll, which is when we actually remember to use our ad space, is definitely the least valuable.
You ever hear people plugging shit at the end because they forgot?
Exactly. So if you made it this far and you love us, make sure you subscribe, please. Yeah, but then I mean, until every state follows.
I don't know how serious that really is.
3 states, 28 to 25, 25 to 18, 18, 13.
One of the states they weren't even in, only Prize Picks was in.
Which one?
Michigan. Yeah.
Well, they had been in it, but they've been out for a long time.
Right. So that didn't matter.
For pussies.
Oh,
we gave $1 million for responsible gaming. Like, no, the fuck you didn't. You did it for politics. It's all politics. Yep. I don't fuck with politics. All right, on this episode, we're going to talk about the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Yeah. Enough. Sure, everybody.
Who, me? Me?
Dial it in, brother.
All right, let's go. I'm ready.